I love movies, and I've been lucky enough to make a few in my lifetime. I've also seen how movies have changed over the decades, and there's one particular era of filmmaking that I feel gets overlooked, and those would be the Hollywood blockbusters from the mid-90s to the early 2000s. We all know that cinema ended in the year 2002 when the first Spider-Man film swung into theaters. So I'd like to take this opportunity to explore the great films that showcase the final golden age of Hollywood. My name is Martin Scorsese, and this is Armageddon. A note to the viewer. This program contains what some might consider to be spoilers, but I guarantee that nothing can spoil this perfect film. This is merely an enhancement, and my own opinion. If you knew that the world was coming to an end, how would you spend your final days? What would you do? Who would you see? What films would you watch? But more importantly, if you had the opportunity to save mankind from an impending asteroid, would you do it?
This is the Earth at a time when the dinosaurs roamed a lush and fertile planet.
The film begins 65 million years ago, showing the asteroid that once hit the Earth and caused the extinction of the dinosaurs. This electrifying image leaves nothing to the imagination. It is total and complete destruction. And it begs the question that if this has happened before, will it happen again? The narrator, Charlton Heston, answers this question directly.
It happened before. It will happen again.
The combination of cutting-edge computer graphics and an artfully crafted 3D title sequence let us know the scale of the film we're about to see. You see, when you're writing a screenplay, it's very important to have high stakes. And what could be higher stakes than the destruction of the planet? This is a cosmic drama of the highest order. Michael Bay's Armageddon is a film that combines action, romance, comedy, and suspense. It's a near-perfect film, and that was proven by its staggering box office success, grossing over $500 million worldwide. Not only was Armageddon a commercial success, but it was an artistic one as well. Many people don't know this, but in the early days of the Criterion Collection, they released a beautiful double DVD set of Armageddon with many bonus features. So that's right, in the same breath as Fellini's 8.5, we have Michael Bay's Armageddon. And many have asked, why is Armageddon in the Criterion Collection? Let's open up the booklet and see what it says. Despite what you may have heard, Armageddon is a work of art by a cutting-edge artist who is a master of movement, light, color, and shape, and also chaos, razzle-dazzle, and explosion. And that was written by Michael Bay's former film professor, so absolutely no bias there. On the audio commentary, Michael Bay also addresses this question right at the gate.
Hi, this is Michael Bay, and welcome to the Criterion edition of Armageddon. Why is there a Criterion edition of Armageddon? This movie took me 1.5 years of my life, and I'd like to show you some of the pains that I went through, as well as the pain that 2,700 other people, some of the finest craftsmen in Hollywood, went through to try to bring this movie to the screen. Making films is like a war, and any movie that ever gets to the screen, it's like you've won a war.
So if making a film is a war, let's learn a little bit more about how this particular war was won. Michael Bay is one of the great modern masters, who, like many, began his career directing music videos. He lent his distinct visual style for many artists, such as Tina Turner, Vanilla Ice, and Meatloaf. His fingerprints are all over these early works, particularly Meatloaf's video for I Would Do Anything for Love. Just look at the camera movement, the quick cuts, the high contrast, and the saturated use of color for the opening motorcycle chase sequence. He was creating a new language for action cinema. He previously worked with producer Jerry Bruckheimer to bring the films Bad Boys and The Rock to the screen. After the success of The Rock, he signed a 2-picture deal with Disney's Touchstone Pictures. He claims he read every script that they had and wasn't interested in making any of them, so he pitched a film of his own about an asteroid about to collide with Earth. Disney loved the idea and wanted to have their own end-of-the-world media picture, since Deep Impact was scheduled to be released the very next year by rival studio Paramount Pictures. You could say that the release of Deep Impact was this film production's own impending asteroid to avoid.
Good luck to us all.
The question is, would audiences tolerate two films with very similar plots? You see, we had this same problem in 1997 with the release of two films, Dante's Peak and Volcano. But both films earned over $100 million in the box office, proving the American audience's unquenchable thirst for destruction. Disney decided to greenlight the picture with a $140 million budget. But there wasn't a final script yet. A lot of screenwriters worked on this, but most notably were three. A young J.J. Abrams, Tony Gilroy, who adapted the Bourne Identity films, and Robert Towne, the Academy Award-winning screenwriter of Chinatown. He chose to keep his name off the final credits. Now let's dive into this very well-crafted screenplay. The film begins with disaster in space. It tells us everything we need to know about the picture. There will be explosions, death when we least expect it, a lot of moving camera shots, and really smart-sounding science jargon dialogue.
Multiple bogeys, Sector 5, Niner.
STI, this is Flight Director. I want to get that Hubble moving, and I want it now.
Let's stay focused. We need to map the trajectory now.
This is the anomaly at 1643 and 1700.
Enough with this anomaly horseshit. What is this thing?
I mean, this makes the audience go, I have no idea what they're talking about, but it sounds really important and smart, so I'm going to lean in and pay attention. As a native New Yorker, it was very disturbing to see the opening images of this film. Moviegoers had seen the destruction of New York City many times over the years in films, most recently in Independence Day. But the first instance was in the 1933 RKO sci-fi picture Deluge, where they used miniature models of the Big Apple being washed away by a great flood. Filmgoers in 1998 weren't ready for the horrific depiction that opens up this film. This gives the audience a taste of what that kind of carnage can look like in a big city. Only 3 years later would New Yorkers actually experience something comparable, on September 11th. We are then warned that the meteor shower in New York was just a sample. An even bigger asteroid is headed for the Earth.
What kind of damage?
Damage? Total, sir. It's what we call a global killer.
We have 18 days before it hits Earth.
All of this is established in the very first 12 minutes of the film. Incredibly tight economic screenwriting. Armageddon belongs in the long tradition of disaster pictures. They had their heyday in the 1970s, with films like The Towering Inferno, Earthquake, and Meteor, starring Sean Connery, which features a very similar plotline as this movie.
That meteor is 5 miles wide, and it's definitely going to hit us.
Bay actually considered casting Sean Connery for the lead, having just worked with him on The Rock, but decided to cast younger after having met with real-life oil drillers. Bruce Willis was actually signed to a multi-picture deal with Disney at the time, so why not combine two of the contractually obligated?
I don't know. I'm just used to it. I'm used to being a prisoner to Disney right now. No.
Now here's an interesting bit of Hollywood history. So before Armageddon, Bruce Willis was working on a film called The Broadway Brawler for Disney. He was producing it. It was a passion project of his. But he was very unhappy with how the production was going, so he shut it down. This unfortunately left him in a $17 million hole with the corporation. So instead of getting sued, he decided to sign a 3-picture deal with Disney. Instead of getting paid $20 million, he would get paid $3 million, and he would do 3 pictures. The first picture he did in that series of 3 was Armageddon. The second one was The Sixth Sense. And the third was a movie called The Kid. I haven't seen The Kid, but The Sixth Sense is pretty good. Now, it's important to establish characters with action to get a sense of who they are, how they behave. Bruce Willis's character, Harry Stamper, is seen hitting golf balls at a Greenpeace boat next to his offshore oil rig. It's ironic because he has no patience for environmentalists who are trying to save the planet, and not knowing he'll be asked to save the planet himself later in the film. Now let me show you another scene as he confronts Ben Affleck for slacking on the job and disobeying orders. And he walks into the room, and we see a close-up of a foot, and it's got toenail polish on it, so we know it belongs to a woman. And we know she's hiding. So now the audience knows something that Bruce Willis doesn't. This is called dramatic irony. You can see the use of the low angle to create tension and perspective. He eventually finds Grace hiding in the bed. So now we know everything about this dynamic.
Hi, Harry.
I've asked you repeatedly to call me Dad.
This is a story of a father and a daughter, and a relationship that he is not approving of. So while the impending asteroid is our external plot. This is the emotional core that drives the whole movie. A father who needs to come to terms with the fact that his daughter is becoming her own woman. Now let's highlight some of the other cast members. Many forget that Armageddon is one of the great ensemble pictures of all time. A lot of the cast were up-and-comers, fresh off of independent film successes. Ben Affleck, who was in Good Will Hunting. Billy Bob Thornton with Sling Blade. Liv Tyler with Bertolucci's Stealing Beauty. Owen Wilson with Bottle Rocket. Steve Buscemi with Fargo. And a great cameo from Peter Stormare in the Russian space station. These blue-collar oil drillers have an impossible mission of landing on the asteroid, drilling to the core, planting a nuclear weapon, and then detonating it before it reaches Earth's atmosphere.
And this is the best that the government, the U.S. government can come up with? I mean, you're NASA for crying out loud. You put a man on the moon. You're geniuses.
The film was actually made with the official participation of the NASA space program. They had assisted Ron Howard in 1995 with the film Apollo 13 to create an accurate space shuttle experience. NASA was helping Hollywood once again by allowing Michael Bay and the crew to film 2 different space shuttle launches at the Kennedy Space Center. They even used exteriors of the Johnson Space Center, located in Houston, Texas. So while these men know how to drill, they don't know how to be astronauts. And the training montage adds for some much-needed comedic relief in the second act.
Piece of cake.
Talk about the wrong stuff.
And even though we're finally having a few laughs, the threat of the asteroid is never forgotten. What you may not realize is the amount of tension that builds throughout this movie through 2 devices. One, we see the asteroid in space hurling towards Earth, and we see a ticking clock, knowing when it's going to hit. And I've actually made a little diagram of how many times you see a ticking clock and how many times you see an asteroid in the film. It's very evenly paced throughout the entire thing. It's expertly crafted. The other way Michael Bay builds tension is with camera movement. I mean, look at some of these shots. They're dizzying, disorienting. And because Michael Bay loves low angles on his talent, the studio actually wanted Ben Affleck to have bigger teeth, feeling like his teeth were too small for a leading man. So they gave him fake teeth. You can see the teeth comparison between this film and the previous year's Good Will Hunting. The teeth make a difference. They're more commanding. Bay even gives himself an Alfred Hitchcock-like cameo in the film, putting himself amongst the ranks with the ultimate master of suspense. All great films reference other great films. For example, this padded room set during the psychological evaluation reminds me of German expressionist films, such as the angular sets used in The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. And the jagged room actually foreshadows what the surface of the asteroid is going to look like later in the film.
This place is like Dr. Seuss's worst nightmare.
The team wanted the asteroid to actually feel like a monster. It's the villain of the movie. So it was given a personality and a meanness to it. They actually built a giant 3D rendering of the asteroid so they could photograph it and get shots from the perspective of inside the asteroid heading towards Earth. Now this film is 2.5 hours long, like many of my own pictures. And there are many complications that arise once they land on the asteroid before the final climax. Now at this point in the film, the nuclear weapon has been damaged, and the only way to detonate it is to do it manually. So all the men draw straws to see who will be the unfortunate soul who's left behind. Now this drawing straws technique is actually very interesting. I've never seen it as a plot device in a picture before.
Oh, man. I'll take him down.
Bruce Willis sacrifices himself at the end of the film, so his only love, his daughter, can live out the rest of her life. So the same angry and delusional father from the beginning has now been transformed into a selfless hero, and proving to his daughter that he is finally willing to let her go and let her live her life. This ending is definitely an homage to one of the greatest endings of all time, which is Casablanca.
And the names are Mr. and Mrs. Victor Laszlo.
Where Rick allows his beloved Ilsa to leave with the letters of transit, as opposed to saving his own neck. Making a sacrifice for another is the most noble of all film character traits. The incredibly powerful song by Aerosmith that closes out the film brings me to tears every time.
I could stay awake just to hear you breathing.
And it has an extra layer of meaning because Steven Tyler of Aerosmith is the father of Liv Tyler, who stars in the film.
At the end of the movie, she reaches up for one of the screens and she looks at Bruce Willis and she goes, "Daddy?" You know, as if she's never going to see him again. And just, you know, my heart just fell on the floor. So it was very touching.
Did you cry?
Yeah.
This film, Armageddon, has a heart as big as the asteroid that's about to destroy it. It's ultimately about love, and that humanity is worth saving. It's ironic that a nuclear weapon is going to be the savior of mankind, since its original design was a weapon of mass destruction, something that could efficiently kill a lot of people at once. The word Armageddon is actually Hebrew. It's the name of a place in northern Israel. The book of Revelations describes this spot as the final battleground between good and evil. And isn't that what this film is about? The asteroid is the final battleground for mankind. And Americans are the ones who get the job done. The two space shuttles that perform the mission are actually called Freedom and Independence. So in the end, this film is a grand hymn to the American spirit.
Show you how we do things where I come from.
Now, in the end, Armageddon did outperform Deep Impact in the box office. And while scientists say that Deep Impact is more scientifically accurate, my question to you is, what film are we still talking about today? It's Armageddon.